10 years ago, you were the first blind person to summit Mount Everest.
Yes.
And did you ever think that 10 years ago you'd be such a big star as you are now?
Um, I just, when you're thinking about big stuff, I don't know how I got in the sort of game of being able to think about big stuff like climbing Mount Everest, because my friend Chris Morris, he's kind of like a simple philosopher, and, he says, what's crazy about climbing mountains is you gotta like stand at the base of the mountain and you look up at this massive mountain with like the seracs and the avalanches coming down, and you're like, I'm gonna stand on top of that? You almost have to like convince yourself that you can do it, so anyway, so for me it was like that with Everest. I had to convince myself that it was possible, and I knew if I wasn't gonna do it, somebody could do it blind. It was possible, and I wanted to be that guy who could do it, so honestly I wasn't thinking about like stardom or anything. I was just thinking about like actually nudging society forward, like doing things that maybe people thought were improbable or impossible.
So that brings us to the next thing. I mean, everybody sees you on TV. You were recently on Expedition Impossible. We were all rooting for you on that. But you're so often referred to as the blind guy who climbed Everest.
Of course.
And, how does that make you feel?
Now I'm the blind guy who did the reality TV show.
Right. But how does that make you feel? I mean, you've obviously done other stuff.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's the crazy part, is that there have been 3 things that have gotten me massive attention in my life. Not that I'm striving for massive attention, but it's like climbing Everest. And then the second thing was this, I did this interview, and this lady was like, oh my gosh, she's like, it's such an honor to have you on our show. You're the first gay person to climb Mount Everest. And then she goes, oh, excuse me, I mean blind person to climb Mount Everest. And I'm like, nothing funny about being blind or gay, but like, how did you get those 2 mixed up? And then the third thing was this reality thing. And, I signed up because I just thought it would be a cool thing to like add to the tick list of life adventure.
Those are the 3 things that people know you for. What do you feel like your biggest accomplishment is?
Well,
does it relate to those 3?
Not really.
Okay.
I mean, I think it relates to those things in the way that like I've been proud to be able to put really good teams together. Well, 2 out of the 3. To put really good teams together and do some stuff that definitely changes the paradigm of what you think a blind person would do or could do. So I think that's really cool. But all the projects that I've done, have been, 1, the thing we climb, but 2, the people that I'm with. As a blind climber, you're not going to go out and climb things probably alone. Although I have done a few things like that. But most of the things I've done, they've been, working with a team and relying on a team. And so, like, a lot of the things I've done, like off the beaten path, like climbing, the French route on El Pomayo with just one friend, and just getting on top with just one guy, or climbing Mount Cook, with just one other friend, or I climbed a peak, or a big ice face, a 3,000-foot line of ice in the Himalaya called Losar, with 2 guys, and just had such a great time with these 2 buddies, and you're just away from everything, away from cell phones and eating really bad food, and it's adventure, and I love the adventure aspect. I love building the team, like picking the people that have the skill, but also the people I want to be around, and kind of have this wonderful like attitude of believing that things are possible, and then strategizing and figuring out the route, and like the way we're going to climb, and reacting and responding to the mountain. That's what I love, and adventure racing is pretty cool, but you're given the rules.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily like to be given the rules. I like to say, okay, these are the natural rules of the mountain, and you got to live by those, or things might not turn out too well.
Yeah. No, definitely. Yeah. No, definitely.
So that's why climbing and backcountry skiing and things like that are much more interesting to me than like a race. Even though I've done several races, because the rules aren't given.
That there are certain rules of nature when you're backcountry skiing. One of the things that we're curious about, especially focusing on backcountry skiing, is being able to ski and be blind.
Yeah.
How did you go through that process of knowing where your body should be and where to turn and whatnot? And I know the video that you did with Sirac actually showed some of that.
Yeah.
But can you give kind of
Sure.
a quick rundown?
Well, I'd been climbing and rock climbing and things like that and starting to learn how to ice climb, but I came out to Colorado because I really wanted the Rockies to be my backyard, and I wanted to learn how to ski, and so I didn't know how to do it, and I showed up to this blind sort of festival for disabled people, and I hooked up with a guide, and he must have seen like some passion in my eyes, quote unquote eyes, you know, and he taught me how to ski essentially, and I was 27 years old when I learned to ski, and I remember this guy laughing, goes, "You're an incomplete mountaineer if you don't know how to ski." And so
That's a true mountaineer for you.
yeah, exactly. So I was like, that's right. I mean, part of mountaineering is skiing down, you know? And so I worked really hard, and at first skiing was like the scariest thing I've ever done. In fact, it's one of the only things I do with like a lot of speed, you know? So it is scary. And then learning how to ski as a blind person, you know, because I imagine the way people learn how to ski well is that they watch good skiers. A blind person can't do that, you know. So I think a lot of blind people, you know, I've heard they look like blind skiers, and I was like, well, I don't want to look like a blind skier. I want to look like a good skier, like a good athlete, like a graceful skier. So I've worked really hard to, you know, kind of learn to feel the way skiing is, and like feel what a nice carving turn is, and feel like when you're in powder, how that pop, you know, and those quick turns, and just when you feel it, like you lock in your brain, and I go, okay, but everything I have to do, I have to feel it. I have to learn through like kinesthetic learning, you know, kind of going through the motion and doing it wrong 100 times, and finally getting it right and going, that's it, that's what I want to feel like. And so that's really, really hard, and it's fun though. And also then you have the whole aspect of skiing and not being able to see, you know, so somebody's guiding me. So it's not like a sport like a sighted person would just ski down a mountain. For me, it's like a tandem sport. It's like synchronized swimming or something.
Yeah.
You know, because I'm in total sync with my guide. You know, he's screaming out in front, and he's looking back, and he's going, turn a left, turn a right, turn a left, or just maybe he drops that middle syllable, and it's like, hard left, hard right, or maybe it's just hop, 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 you know, for going really fast down, you know, something steep. You know, and I don't have any footage of me backcountry skiing, but I do have this video of me teaching people how to ski guide, how
Really?
to guide blind skiers.
Actually, going into the backcountry adds kind of an added step and an added challenge to somebody who's both a blind skier and somebody who's skiing as your partner.
Yeah.
What kind of precautions or steps do your partners take, do you think, that other backcountry skiers might not take? Besides giving you turn-by-turn directions.
Yeah. Well, in the backcountry, a lot of times my friends don't give me turn-by-turn directions. What they might do is just ski down like maybe 100 turns, and then just go this way and like click their poles together, and then I just start skiing towards them. You know.
Okay.
So I'm kind of making my own turns, and they'll yell if I'm getting too close to trees or something. And I try to, you know, ski kind of more open glades and stuff. And so that may look sort of easy and fluid, but it's not. It's like there's so much going on under the surface.
Yeah, I can imagine that takes a lot of time and practice and getting to know your partner.
It does. It
as
takes
well.
so much trust. You
And,
know, it's like a climbing team. You know, it's like trust is at the heart of it, and I can't ski well if I don't trust my guide. You know, because there's a point where you're, as a blind skier, where you're not like thinking about, oh my God, is this guy going to kill me? You know,
Right.
You're just thinking, okay, just go with it, man, and then you're actually thinking about skiing. And the other thing is like, sure, I mean, he's like yelling directions. It's sort of like working a little remote control person behind him. But that's in the background, you know. I'm just doing what he's telling me to do, and I'm not consciously thinking about it. I'm just doing it, and then I'm thinking about skiing.